Accuracy and me don't get along. Believe me. The bananas. It's not a potassium thing. I'm just a big fan. Hey, if my source said to me they're going to Czechoslovakia this week, how am I to blame? I'm passing the information.
One half of the team with Don Taylor. Weekdays on Czech television from 10 to 12. It is our pleasure to welcome Canucks Insider and Friday regular, Mr. Rick Dhaliwal. How are we doing today, Ricky?
Really good. What a busy week it has been when Canucksville. Lots of stuff, obviously, off the ice because there sure isn't anything happening on ice. But the big news this morning was Bruce Boudreau, guys.
Yeah, so I read the piece that you and Thomas Drance put together for The Athletic, and some really good tidbits there. We're going to talk about a lot of it here. I read words like frustration on behalf of the Vancouver Canucks, tension hanging over the process, and Darren Dreger mentioned to us on Wednesday, boy, there's some tension that is mounting. There was a suggestion Bruce was maybe waiting on the first round to see who was out and whether they made any changes. What do you think brought this together this morning?
Well, it happens. It's so fresh. It literally happened 10, 15 minutes ago. But I'm going to sit back and everything you just said, I'm going to say this. This got too public. And it's not a good look for either side. It's not a good look for the team. It got too public. And I think everybody probably got together yesterday and said, look, guys, we're airing out our dirty laundry in the public. It's not good. So I think they just got together yesterday and said, look, Bruce, what do you need? You know, and he had told me in a phone conversation Wednesday, I believe, that there was a couple of items that needed to be sorted out, and then I'll come back. He did want to come back. He told me Wednesday. He loves Vancouver, loves the fans, loves the city, the whole 9 yards. He had to work on a couple items. I think they got to him and said, look, what are the items? Let's knock it off. Let's get you back, and let's stop this because it's a story that is running rampant, and it's not good. It's not a good look for either side.
I think it's a case of two guys that have never worked in the Canadian market before, in Bruce Boudreau and Jim Rutherford, not realizing that we're going to drill down on things and that you can't just spew. As they're both talkers. They both have been like this in every stop in the NHL. They just haven't had a Canadian market that's going to seize every single word and look at every
word. Every word. You nailed it. And they're not in Carolina. They're not in Columbus. They're not in Florida or L.A. And where you can talk about zone exits, and they don't really care about zone exits. Well, in Vancouver, you're going to say zone exits are a problem, and that's why we didn't extend them. Well, the story's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So, look, to me, I think it's a classic situation of it getting too public, and both sides realized it, and they said, let's put a clamp on this. Let's get you back. Let's move forward.
Is he going to have the opportunity to hire his own assistants, Ricky? Is there going to be any holdovers with the assistants? And do Rutherford and Alvin have their own guys and their own thoughts on the composition of the coaching staff?
Yeah, I haven't even had a chance to delve into that, Matt. It's so fresh. Like I said 15 minutes ago, that is one thing, though, a lot of people have said is one of the items that Bruce was talking about when he said, you know what, I got some details that got to be figured out. A lot of people are wondering if one of those details is the coaching staff. So that's the one that everyone's kind of thinking, because it wasn't money, it wasn't term. The Canucks basically told them, here's the deal. We're not going to extend you, but you can come back. Here's the number next year. And if you do really, really well, we're talking about an extension. So we knew it wasn't term and money. So now you're sitting back and you're going, okay, well, the only thing I'm thinking about is the assistant coaches. I mean, are you guys going to tell me that I have to have an assistant coach? Because we've seen that in other cities. We've seen that, where a general manager says, okay, you can have this guy and this guy back, but I want a different guy in this spot. So we have seen that in the past. That's going to be the big one. And maybe if Bruce talks today, or the Canucks might give clarity on that. But everybody thinks one of those details that needed to be worked out was the coaching staff.
Do we view that through a different lens today in light of all of the staff changes that have now been revealed in your piece and elsewhere from PJ as well? That therapists and all the staff is gone, basically. They're going to start from new.
I've said this on your show for weeks. I've said that, obviously, look, new regime, changes. It doesn't matter what company it is. I don't care if it's a hockey team or it's a store outfit or whatever. Look, new regime comes in, new people, new fresh voices, new ideas, the whole 9 yards. We knew the scouts. We knew there were going to be changes here. And I've been telling you guys for weeks that I had been told every department was going to be looked at, including the medical and training staff. And there's so many good guys in that department. And if you ever covered junior hockey, you see it right there. You see the importance of trainers and these kids, and a lot of players get attached to trainers. And I told this story on Donnie and Dolly today. There was a UFA that was it was pretty relatively big name UFA who wanted to take his trainer with them to a new city. And that's how much the attachment of a trainer and a player can be, and how important and how close a trainer-player relationship can be. But look, the scouts, the trainers, the coaching staff, you're right, Blake. And as we talked about last week, and Blake, I keep bringing it up, are we looking at more people traveling from Pittsburgh to Vancouver with more new faces? I don't know. But I wonder if now that there's a whole lot of openings in the medical and training staff, they got openings, and I wonder if they go to Pittsburgh for some of those guys. Well, just wondering. I have no idea if it is.
Yeah, well, when you're talking about people like Roger Takahashi and John Sanderson and Dave Zorn, you're talking about guys, as you outlined, Rick, that are trusted confidants of these players. Maybe they have their own guys. Maybe they're just trying to keep everybody on their toes, say, look, nobody's safe here. This isn't a country club. New sheriff's in town, and we want to
change.
Yeah,
change.
That changes the order of the day. Do you get the sense it's part of any kind of bigger
cultural
shift?
No, I'm not surprised at any of this. But we've seen it at radio stations. You get a new PD, have we not? And but it's not funny. What's the first thing the new PD comes in at a radio station or a TV station? He hires people he's comfortable with, he likes, he trusts. Same thing here. There's no surprise. And it's a new regime who wants to shake things up. Hey, look, here's another one for you. There hasn't been a lot of winning hockey. There hasn't been a great culture in the last 11 years. So are you really, really, really super surprised? I'm not. And Blake had said it when they were hired that there was going to be a lot of changes. And Thomas seems to think maybe one more change, possibly two more on the scouting side, maybe on the pro side, that could be coming down the pike. But it's new regime. They've got full control. They build culture. You build culture, with people that you like, people you trust, and this is just it's a new regime hiring new guys, no question.
Moving along to the Andrei Kuzmenko file, and I may be asking you to answer for something that Thomas actually typed, but when the Athletic calls him quote calls the Canucks quote perhaps the prohibitive favorite, can you add anything to that?
No, Thomas and our sources indicate that, and I've been saying this for a long time, the Canucks were always going to be a finalist in this. There is a great relationship between Dan Milstein and Patrick Allvin that goes way back. Patrick Allvin is like this player from his Pittsburgh days. Jim Rutherford likes this player. It's not a big story that they are A, a finalist, and B, I think they're going to be there. Whether they get him or not, I don't know. We're not saying – nowhere in the story said they're going to land him.
No, I understand that, Rick.
Yeah, and what I did say, and I've been saying for a while, I expect them to be right there in the mix at the end. I expect them to be there right in the end. They like this player. They like the skill. They like the power play opportunities. But the other thing that we found out in the last 24 to 48 hours about Andrei Kuzmenko, it's just not about signing that one-year deal next year. He's only allowed to sign a one-year deal at entry-level money. They are looking at the big picture. And they're looking not just for next year, but the year after and the year after. Now, what that means is, does the team they sign with have the cap room for him the following 2 to 3 years?
Right.
So this isn't even though the rules say you can only sign a one-year deal for the entry-level money, which is $925. What the Kuzmenko camp is saying, we also want to have one eye on the future. So when that 1 year is up, do you have the cap space? If he does really well, to do, hang around and get him for another 2 to 3 years. So that's what we did learn. The Kuzmenko is not going to come down just to a 1-year deal and then, we're going to become UFA, and we're going to sign elsewhere. They want to kind of have a good feel that the team they signed with has the cap room for years after.
Well, and look at what comes up. $2.4 million in dead cap space comes off the year after, of course, once the Hopi and Bertana thing. So that could all go into his pocket if he has a good year.
Well, plus to mention they may move Myers, maybe OEL comes off the book somehow, some way, maybe Garland, maybe they don't re-sign either Boeser, Horvat or Miller, and then of course there's the case of Boeser. But that's what we're saying, Rick.
Yeah, and Blake made a good point there. But you look at teams, and Vancouver's cap situation is only going to get better and better because a lot of money is coming off the books, as Blake said. But so just keep in mind Kuzmenko, when he picks his team, is just not thinking about next year. He's also thinking about the years after. Does that team have the cap space if he has a great year? Now, quickly on Kuzmenko, great relationship between the agent and Patrick Elvine. The Rutherford and Elvine both like this guy. They really view him as a skill guy and a power play guy. Let's see where it goes. They still got to interview with teams that are in the playoffs right now. So just keep an eye on that. But I do believe Vancouver, and I've been saying this for a while, and they made the short list, just like I said. Yeah. They are going to be a player in this.
And
no question in my mind.
As Dreger pointed out, time is on the Kuzmenko camp side. They're going to wait here, as you say. They're going to wait on the and really rush. This is coming down to opportunity, and we've long known that the Canucks can promise him, the ability to play with a centerman like a Miller or a Pettersson or a Horvat in the top six without, let's face it, a ton of competition nipping at his heels in that top six. Reading between the lines of your story, Rick, though, it sounds like they promised him power play one opportunity with Boudreau in the room or a part of that process. And as your story points out, what does that mean for Brock Boeser's future? Because I suspect he would be the one to move off the power play or just move, period, if Kuzmenko is coming in. Explain
before we
part.
get to Boeser, you said something there that they promised. I've been in hockey long enough, at the minor hockey league, junior hockey league. What hockey people tell you when they're recruiting you, what they tell you happens this month is not always what happens. Junior A teams commit to kids in March, April. Those same kids go to camp 4 or 5 months later and get cut. You can when you're recruiting, what are you telling the player? Power play, penalty killing, everything. You always promise the moon when you're recruiting a player because there's a ton of other teams that are in the mix as well. So just keep in mind what they say in hockey 1 month. You still got to go out. You can promise power play time and promise everything you want, Matt, till you're blue in the face. The player's still got to go out, and when he is on the power play, he's got to execute. So just just be careful when you're recruiting a player. You're always telling them what you want to hear because there's multiple teams involved. The other teams are telling them the same thing, power play, penalty killing as well.
Yeah, you won't,
Ricky, I promise you I won't use the word promise in that context again.
But one thing this signing would do, guys, is that allows them to move somebody, right? Guilt-free somewhat. It's a bit of a gamble. He's never played a game in the NHL, so there's a gamble on their side there. But if they sign him, trading a Garland doesn't seem crazy anymore. Maybe trading a Boeser doesn't seem crazy anymore if you've got an insurance package right there in Kuzmenko.
Yeah, and I've contacted some people in Russia. They all say he's a great prospect. They all say he should do well in the National Hockey League. Absolutely, absolutely. My Russian contacts, everyone out here, there's a reason there was 25 teams. Well, one of the reasons is this player is a freebie, right? Because you don't have to, it doesn't cost you a roster player or a draft pick to get him, right? So that's one of the reasons everyone's after him. But he's legit. Should be a very good NHLer from all accounts and all the people you talk to. You mentioned Brock Boeser, so Thomas and I did some digging. We think the contract talks with Boeser's agent Ben Hankinson will likely begin again to get into they've had some scouting meetings last week. Believe that those contract talks with Ben will kick up again next week. Thomas learned that the team is not afraid to qualify him at 7.5. They like the player a lot. I think the sweet spot for Boeser on a new deal is 2 to 3 years. 2 would walk you to UFA. 3 would get the Canucks 1 year of, obviously they would buy 1 year of free agency in the market. Right now, the goal is to sign Boeser. There's no question. And I remember Jim Rutherford, when we talked about Boeser, he said it's always risky to trade goal scorers, always. And this is a drafted guy. You know him. As opposed to picking up a goal scorer on July 1st. And in the last goal scorer they picked up on July 1st didn't pan out, Louis Eriksson or Sam Gagner. This guy has been with you. He's a drafted player, first round. You know what he is. He's a class act. He's a good guy. He's a good player. They like him a lot. They're going to try really hard to lock up Brock Boeser. No questions about it.
Has he gone to the Canucks since his exit press conference where he got emotional and assured them he does want to be a Vancouver Canuck? I heard some chatter about that.
No, I have never heard that.
Okay.
I never in a million years have I heard Brock Boeser does not want to be in Vancouver.
I mean is, did he tell them, yes, I absolutely want to be a Vancouver Canuck at the end of in the exit meetings?
Yes, Ben Hankinson has told me a million times that the goal is to re-sign in Vancouver. He loves it in Vancouver. I have never heard that he wants out, but I've also look. The market is tough. Canucks haven't won a lot. There's a lot of media attention. There's a lot of stuff that happens. These players, it's not easy when you're on a losing team in a Canadian market. There are, obviously advantages and disadvantages that. But I haven't heard that he wants out. No, not even once.
There's some playing down of the OEL trade stuff that maybe it has been parked for now, etc. Although we can tell you that today he did interviews around the World Hockey Championships, Dolly, in which he said, this was my best year, one of my best years. Mm-hmm. So comfortable, everything clicked, sounded very happy. Maybe he hasn't heard about these rumors. Maybe it'll eventually land on his ears. What do you think that tells you about OEL's status now and, throughout the rest of the offseason?
What did he say when he left Arizona? He only wanted to play in two cities, Vancouver or Boston. He got to the one city that was on that list, Vancouver and Boston. He got to Vancouver. He likes it here. He likes it here. And the sense that Thomas and I get is that most likely he won't be dealt. There was probably some conversations and some due diligence on behalf of the Canucks. You have to do that. This regime has always told us they want to get younger and they want more cap relief. The previous regime left some, contracts that are, obviously we know there's some big contracts they left. So, but we also feel that Vancouver is high on OEL as the player and the person. So that seems to be the common theme there. Is I don't see it happening. And also by the same token, the player was happy. He thought he had a good year, Blake.
What about this chatter they may have to play the right side? I mean, that to me sounds like Tyler Myers would be moved, that they've given their best efforts and that OEL with his no move isn't going anywhere. And so it becomes Myers. And Oliver, you may have to play your unnatural side.
Yeah, that's a very interesting comment, Matt. But Myers has got 2 years left on his deal, right? And by all intents and purposes, he loves it in Vancouver too. And he was the only Vancouver Canuck to play 82 games this year. And I did find out down the stretch that he played with tendonitis. I don't know if the tendonitis was in his shoulder or his knees, but you know what? He played hurt down the stretch. Demko played hurt down the stretch. Boeser told us in his press conference, it was an emotional year for him on and off the ice as well. So these players, they go through a lot. We don't always see it. They don't announce when they play hurt, but they do it. And these guys are warriors for doing it. And Myers, I know a lot of people have a problem with the salary, but don't blame him. Never blame the player or the agent for getting what they want, because when you two go for negotiations on your deals, you try to get the moon as well. And everybody does it. That's human nature. You never blame the player for going to UFA and hitting it rich. That's not his fault. Every human being in every business and every job tries to get the most money they can. That's not the player's fault. The contract's not the player's fault. If you want to rip anyone for the contract, you have to rip the GM, I guess. But you never rip the player. He worked for it. He got it. He didn't put a gun to the Canucks' head to give me $6 million a year. That's not his problem. That's not his fault. But at the end of the day, Tyler Myers is Tyler Myers.
Point of order, Dolly. We create the
Yep.
contracts now. We don't sign them.
Exactly. Yeah. That's our days of begging are over. Now we take the table scraps that remain after we pay everybody.
But Matt, you know what I mean. We as human beings are triggered to what? Get the most money we can. Players are the same.
I
Don't
know
rip them for
exactly
that.
what you mean. I don't begrudge
every
any of
human
these
being
players
does it.
for getting all the money that they can, and I typically align with players when it comes to labor negotiations for two reasons. Number one, the labor is the product, and number two, they're millionaires and the owners are billionaires. So
That's it.
the owners
That's
can
it.
afford to give it on up. I guess that's it. Is that it today?
Kuzmenko, we talked about. Poolman. I just wanted to get
Poolman.
Tucker Poolman in. So he
Quickly.
only played 40 games this year. First season with the Canucks, had issues with headaches down the stretch. Talked to his agent, Dean Grillo. He says he seems to be doing better, seems to be on the right track. Canucks got to figure out what's causing the headaches, and hopefully by training camp he's 100%.
Wonderful stuff, Ricky. Thanks for this. Catch up next Friday, my man.
Adios, amigos.
Rick Dhaliwal, one half of the team, Donnie and Dolly on Czech Television weekdays, 10 to 12.